Regular issues where Congress has not been paying attention to the needs of single mothers.
Oh, gosh, yes. I mean, look, right now the Republicans are always moving on kicking people off of SNAP and kicking people off of Medicaid, by disguising it with we're going to have work requirements for these things. Not ever realizing how difficult it is sometimes. I've been on both. I applied for food stamps during the time I was in law school because it just really became apparent to me that it was so difficult for me to keep food on the table for my daughter that I relented and applied for food stamps. I didn't stay on food stamps forever. It helped me during a period of time when I really needed it, and then I didn't need it anymore. I hate that, the majority right now is always working on, their mantra is pull yourself up by your bootstraps, but clearly that is not possible for so many people in our state of New Mexico and across the country. So my guess is that there are a lot of single moms and single dads, single parents who are like me, who have a choice to pay rent or buy food. And if food stamps helps you to get past that hump or help you during a really desperate time, then that's what we should be doing and not moving to kick people off so that we can save the money because we've given rich folks and corporations in our country tax breaks.
There has never been a Native American woman in Congress, which is shocking and appalling. So you, if you're elected, would be the first. And I know you've also been campaigning with Sharice Davids in Kansas, who we've previously had on the podcast. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of having Native voices in Congress?
Yes. Well, gosh, 240 years with no Native woman voice. That's a long time. Yeah. So, sometimes I think Shirley Chisholm was the first African-American woman in Congress, and it took us 50 years past her to finally get a Native woman in Congress. So hopefully there'll be two of us, and I'd be thrilled and honored to serve with Sharice Davids. So, I feel like my background, I grew up in a military Pueblo household. I spent a lot of time with my grandparents, with my grandfather down at his field. He was a farmer, and he was a farmer before he went to work on the railroad, and he worked on the railroad for 45 years in Winslow, Arizona. And when he retired, he went back to farming. So that was something that he did. I was able to partake of that work when I was a young child and, learned so many things from my grandparents. They essentially gave me my work ethic. I am steeped in my culture. I am obligated to make sure that I do everything that I am supposed to throughout the year, and I live up to those expectations. And I just feel like with my background, yes, my voice would be important to Congress, especially at this time when we see, there's seemingly a war on our environment, a war on women, a war on our public education system. So I'm ready to go and use my voice to fight for the things that people should have in this country.
Are there other issues, other things that are really important to you that you want to make sure that we talk about?
I spoke to a group of UNM, University of New Mexico students last night. The students organized a forum for the CD1 candidates, and so I was proud to go and speak to the students there. And there's a real concern about the cost of education for students right now. A few students, one of them told me he gets a presidential scholarship. The other one told me she gets a National Hispanic Scholarship. That is not enough to pay for their college. We need to invest more in our education system so that students don't come out of college with crippling debt. No one should go bankrupt. No one should, their lives shouldn't be put on hold because they're paying off their student loans. So I'd really like to see us move forward with ways that we can remedy this situation. more Pell Grants, more scholarship money, opportunities for students who graduate to serve the public so that they can have some loan forgiveness as they move forward. So I think there's so many ways for us to live up to our obligations as a country to students. The Republicans seemingly, they almost want to say you should go to a school that you can afford. And if that were the case, so many of us, regardless of what, how well we did in our public schools, would never have an opportunity to go to a 4-year college or get an advanced degree because we would never be able to afford it. I think we need to look at this as these students are the future of our country, and we should, as a country, should invest in their future so that they will benefit our country in the long run.
Yeah, I agree. I work in higher education, and the costs are just, it's skyrocketing, and it's so difficult for people to be able to make that work.
Astronomical. Yes, and over you hear these students saying, my parents could never afford to pay this. Students who get accepted to excellent schools, that maybe their chances of having a deeper experience of some sort, they end up not doing that because they don't want to put their parents in an awkward position. I just feel we need to be investing in the future of our country by helping students to achieve their educational dreams. I think that would help us far more than anything.
I saw a picture on Twitter of you wearing a shirt that says "Phenomenal Woman," which I love. It was on the Native Women's Equal Pay Day, which is shockingly all the way September 27th. But I saw that shirt and I thought that just it's such a great shirt anyway, and it's just says so much about where we are this year with so many women running for office and how exciting that is.
Yes, it is exciting. It is exciting. I guess they were getting women across the country to put on the T-shirt and make a post. And so it is truly amazing that we have so many women across the country, like more than ever, right? And there's more Native women than ever before running for offices from the top of the ticket to the bottom. So super proud to be in this wave of women candidates and women of color.
So if our listeners would like to help out your campaign, how can they do that?
They can go to debforcongress.com, DEBFOR, congress.com. They can make a small donation to my campaign. That helps us more than anything I can think of right now because we, it's expensive to run a congressional campaign, and we're absolutely not taking one single thing for granted. So that would be helpful. If they live here in Albuquerque, they can go to nmdemocrats.org and sign up to volunteer. They can repost and retweet all of our social media on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. There's so many ways they can help, and certainly they can reach on our website. There's also a link where you can contact us if they have some other ideas.
All right. Fantastic. We'll put a link for that on our website as well. So, Deb, thank you so much for talking to me. This is really terrific. I'm just so excited about your campaign this year, and
thank you.
And can't wait to see you and Sharice in Congress.
Thank you so much. Well, I hope you're watching the returns on November 6th. I imagine when we win, you'll learn about it on the news.
Yeah. We'll be watching very closely.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome back. I am one of your hosts, Sophie, and I'm here with your co-host, Kelly. Hey, Kelly.
Hey, Sophie.
And joining us tonight is Melanie Stansbury. She is running for New Mexico House of Representatives from District 28. Welcome, Melanie.
Thanks. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on to our show. Can you just sort of start off? We usually ask our guests first to tell us a bit about themselves, introduce themselves to the listeners, and just tell us a little bit about how you came to be running for the New Mexico House.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Melanie Stansbury, and I'm running, like you said, in House District 28, which is in the northeast heights of Albuquerque, New Mexico. And for those of you that aren't familiar with New Mexico, Albuquerque is the largest city, and we're bounded on the east side of our city by these beautiful mountains called the Sandia Mountains. And the district that I'm running in is the neighborhoods that are up against the foothills of the mountains and goes all the way to the top there. And I'm a native New Mexican. I was born and raised here. I was raised in a working family. My mom was a seamstress, and I was mostly raised by her as a single mom. And my older sister's dad also was very influential in my life, and I grew up working with him. He owned a small landscaping business, so I grew up doing construction as well. And I think that, growing up in a working family, growing up in a low-income area, I was always very attuned to community issues and very interested in how do we build our economy, how do we improve the well-being of our communities. And New Mexico, in a lot of ways, is struggling in terms of its 49th and 50th on almost every socioeconomic indicator there is. Poverty, crime, education, job growth, and it's really reflected in our communities in the way that people are really struggling to get by. And I think that's what motivated me, in addition to being raised by a family that was always interested in public service, in going to school and studying community development. I got a graduate degree in sociology, and was always interested also in the sciences and trying to apply the sciences to help build the economy and do economic development. But I was not probably your typical political candidate. I came home after graduate school and was working on studying land and water issues in northern New Mexico and rural development. And I was working on a project studying water rights issues when I met somebody in 2010 who was working in the White House during the Obama administration. And through this totally happenstance meeting with this gentleman who was working there, I had the opportunity to go serve first as a policy intern and then as a civil servant in the White House for 4 years. And that was really life-changing, and this amazing opportunity to take, the work that I've been doing at the community level and work on those issues at the national level. And I worked on tribal issues and I worked on earth science issues. And I got to work with communities all over the country. And then from there, I ended up with a job working in the U.S. Senate as a staffer in the Energy and Natural Resources Committee, working on the water and earth science portfolio in the Senate. And I was working for two women, actually. I was working for Senator Cantwell from Washington State, and Senator Murkowski was the chairwoman of the Energy Committee. And I think that was very formative for me in seeing two women leaders who worked collaboratively to always try to find common ground. So things sort of came full circle. I think as for many women after the 2016 election, I think so many of us were really shaken by what had happened and sort of how our country was impacted by it. And like so many people, I sort of woke up the next day and said, I need to do something. And I didn't know what the something was, but I ended up going online and looking up the Emerge program, which is a program that my older sister had done in 2008, I think, that trains women to run for office. And I enrolled in that program and started the 7-month journey with these amazing women from all walks of life in New Mexico, and eventually was asked if I would step up and run for office. And so it began a year ago. And so, it's been an amazing adventure. I think, for me, running for office is an extension of doing community service. It's about giving back to the community. It's about mobilizing our community and bringing meaningful change and representation to, a community that has not had that kind of voice in our local and state politics. And so it's personal, and it's just an extension kind of that community work that I've been doing my entire life. And I'm doing it because I believe in New Mexico, and I believe that we can create meaningful change and actually build a brighter future.
So can you tell us a little bit, you mentioned sort of where House District 28 is, but what's kind of the makeup of the district? What does this district look like? I mean, one of the things that